Today we're going to talk about tomatoes, hay and straw mulch. So come on, let's plant.
The way we've got this trellis set up, our goal is to plant the tomatoes in a straight line. That way when we hang our string down, we'll be able to trellis them straight up and they're not going to be leaning one way or the other. And one of the easy ways to find this out, just use a little shovel, use it as a plumb bob. That'll hang straight down, and that's right where we want to plant our tomatoes. So let's go ahead and pull the mulch back. I got a couple bigger tomatoes. I've been waiting for a day like this to show you how we handle the bigger ones or the leggy ones.
Whether it's square bales or it's round bales, you're going to have some seeds in here. Best part though is if you let them germinate in the bale, then those seeds are gone. Toss that off, it becomes part of the mulch. This works the same thing with the straw. The straw is going to have wheat in it, and that's all that's growing here is wheat. You can just pull that up and it becomes part of the mulch. I like the fact that these seeds are germinated. That way when I break apart this cold frame and I spread this out, I'll have less seeds. But I'll show you what we do. Well, it took me a little while to find stuff that was coming up through the mulch. But right here by the blueberries, it's kind of thin. All I do is get underneath it, pick it up, flip it over, and those roots will dry out. And that weed is gone. It becomes part of the mulch. And that's all you have to do if you have seeds sprout in your hay or your straw that you're using as mulch. Now that we've got a pretty straight line, we're going to go ahead and put these bigger ones in. I'm going to show you something really cool. Now this entire stem will root. And I got scolded because I thought every one of those little hairs would turn into roots, but there's little bumps on here. Those will turn into roots. Okay, so this one's pretty tall. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pinch off some of these lower leaves. Now when you pinch one off, you do not want to half do it and pull down on the stem. That'll damage it and it'll kill it. So either with sharp fingernails or a pair of scissors, you just pinch that off. And the cool thing is, you just let that go, it becomes part of the mulch. I think we're going to do one more. Just pinch that off, and that leaves about 4 or 5 really nice leaves. So does that mean I'm going to have to dig a hole that deep? Well, you can, or you can try this. Come on, let's plant. Okay, like we measured with our string, we want the tomato to come up basically in line with this pole. But it's good and long, and I don't really want to dig a great big deep hole. So I'm going to come off to the side, make sure you're out of the mulch, and I'm going to dig a pretty decent little hole on an angle. That angle winding up right here in front of this pole. That's the way I like to do it. Now you can do it completely on their side and it'll be fine. I don't like to let the tomatoes get this big, but when they do, it's not all lost. And the reason I like it at an angle is because once we plant it, I don't want to bend this up and break it. Look at the roots on that. This guy needs a little drink of water. So you just set that in there. Come back in with your soil. Kind of make sure that root ball is good and firm in there. And just kind of start burying the stem. And if you give it a little support as you come up that little angle, it's going to stand up pretty good. Just give it a little support as you put it in. And that's close enough to being in line. And that's how you plant a big tomato or a leggy tomato. Let's go ahead and get another one in. Yes, I'm going to put them this close together. Because we're using the string trellis method, you can plant your tomatoes about 6 inches apart and there's no problem. We like to prune heavy. One of our contributors asked about rocks. I find rocks all the time. I just toss them off to the side. Quickly, just pinch these off, toss them off to the side. That's how fast you can do it.
Not hurting the plant at all. Now if you have a way, kind of look at your plant, and if it wants to stand one direction, put it in that way. Get the root ball down, start planting along the stem, kind of stand it up, keep snugging it down. And there you go, tomato 2. And this is why the moles want to visit the garden. That's our helpers. I'm glad to see you're back in here and you're full grown. That is awesome. There you go, buddy. Thank you. We've talked about this being the 5th summer of the deep mulch. And if you were here the first year that I planted tomatoes, if I got anywhere this deep, I was in orange clay. Just look at that soil. So I'm gonna show you. I think this is 2 tomatoes. So you just break them apart. And that's got its roots. And this has got its roots. We're gonna plant this deep and this entire stem will root. Now this is probably gonna look pretty pathetic for a few days, but I got a hunch it'll come right on back and be just fine. So you just pinch those off. I went deep with this one, and that's all you gotta do to plant tomatoes. Now these get a little bigger, we'll prune them up, we're gonna run strings down, and then we're gonna trellis them on up. You can do this too. Part of the reason we're watering these in, even though this ground is good and moist, we want to make sure we get rid of any air pockets. Well, I'm not going to put any mulch back around these tomatoes tonight. I'll bet by tomorrow we've got some marigolds in and a couple other companion plants. We'll look at that tomorrow. I hope you join me for that. Now, if you want to know more about planting tomatoes, click that link right there and I'll meet you back in the garden. If you want to know more about the deep mulch, click that link right there and I'll meet you back in the garden. And until next time, remember, take care of yourself, take care of your family, and God bless you. Come on, let's plant.
Let's go plant garden.